fellow graduates and distinguished guests. Good to see all of you again. And I'd like to put all the students at ease. There's no need to write furious notes. These two slides are on the detailed side. I know what it feels like to be a student after the Thursday evening reception followed by dinner with your Greek friends. So, no need. I'm going to talk about Norwegian project finance, which is essentially sale and leaseback. It differs from the sale and leaseback we are seeing today, which is more the Chinese leasing. Instead of having a bank doing the arranging, we're having a fund which raises both debt and equity. It then purchases the asset, which charters back on to the seller. But not necessarily the seller, it could also be a third party or second ship owner. But for this simplistic illustration, also to keep within the time constraint, we assume that the seller and the charterer is the same. So what's it called Norwegian project finance? Well, historically, you've had Norwegian investors, and also the SPC of the fund has been incorporated in Norway. And furthermore, the issuer house is typically Norwegian. Now, why am I talking about Norwegian project finance? I'm not Norwegian. Well, the past 3 years, we've been very active in this market. And overall, in the last 10 years, it is estimated $20 billion has been raised in this market, which, similar to the numbers we prognosis with the figure you showed, the total shipping companies' market cap. Now, looking at the slide behind me, we can see how the interplay is between the various parts. We have the fund, the SPC, which then becomes the owner, and bareboats back to the seller, which is also called the bareboat charterer. The fund, the SPC, has the financing from bank and equity, which is typically the third-party investors. The bareboat contract would then service this financing. In certain jurisdictions such as Africa, West Africa, where we've done the financing, you could have another layer with local partner content, and that's the blue square. You could also then have another end user, such as named client or major Shell, BP, and so forth. So worth mentioning that the fund, the shares in the fund are tradable, so the investors don't need to lock in. They can sell their shares, but anything more than 20%, the bank would need to do their due diligence, KYC, know your customer. So this is the detailed slide I was talking about. So we have the key consideration for the structure for participants. What makes it attractive is you've got, for the lender, you've got typically a liquid asset. It's not always the case. You could have a bespoke or niche asset, but it's typically liquid. The first loss is taken by the third-party investor, followed by the seller's credit, i.e. the first loss buffer, and then 100% share pledge in seller or charter. This is not typical. This is more on the rare side, but it's worth mentioning because you do come across them. And for the seller, this could represent up to 100% financing if there's no seller's credit, an attractive cost of capital, i.e. cheaper than other alternatives, cheaper than equity, which this financing is essentially a hybrid of debt and equity. There's no restriction on the proceeds, and acceptable bareboat rate, covenant light. Now for acceptable bareboat rate, this is important for the seller, because the seller would not want to lock into a bareboat rate which is not sustainable vis-a-vis the prevailing market rates or forecasted rates. It also keeps the seller and charterer motivated to continue running the ship and not try to wiggle out of the structure. For the investors and lenders, well, this is a key component in the debt sizing, and the investors would look at the risk and determine their returns. For on the riskier side, it could be a company perceived to be with a cash shortfall or liquidity, and there's higher returns would be expected by the investors. To get contract coverage, you'd look at duration and the quality of the counterparty. So for the quality of the counterparty, consider strong balance sheet, solid cash flow, competent management, and board of directors with experience. Now looking at the project economics, what gives us structure, the edge and interest, is the downside protection and the upside potential. So for a lender at the start of the deal, you have the equity which is in first, which, again, this is typical but not always the case, because you could have pre-delivery financing when the debt and equity would go alongside pre-delivery. And during the life, you could also have uncalled capital, and at the end, at the maturity, it could be an SPC with a put option over the vessel, which would secure the balloon component. And then the seller, there's the charterer's credit or seller's credit, which could be recouped on exercise of the option. And the investor also has the potential, with alongside the running yield, there could be a share in the upside. So look at the market fundamentals. This is also important because the asset will operate in a market which needs to be understood. And this story, this compelling story, is important for lenders whilst seeking credit approval, but also for investors gauging the appetite. So an ideal story would be a market-leading position of the counterparty, and with a supply-demand consideration, where there's a growing demand, and this asset is ideal to meet this demand or to address the shortfall. So in summary, this structure has proven successful to address a shortfall and also access additional funding into the system, which has not been met by the major banks, because you could be looking at a one-ship deal of $10 million, which is just on the small side for major banks to dedicate their time and resources to such transactions. And from a lender's point of view, this can be seen as a strong structure in a sense. It's well protected, first priority mortgage over an asset which will be leased to a company that you've assisted in improving their liquidity position by the sale and leaseback transaction. Thank you.
And the two commentators, thank you very much for the presentation.